Hey, what's up guys? It's Ruthie and it's vlog 6. You can see I'm outside. New scenery, new background. I had some complaints from people back home, well actually not from back home, but a friend from out of state said the lighting in your apartment sucks, and I was like, I know, but because I'm in med school I don't really have the funds to be going out getting all this professional lighting. Unless one of you guys want to get me it as a gift, that'd be great, but I'd rather make use of the free light that I have outside during the day. And it's really nice to be out here. It's probably like 80 some degrees and I'm sitting by the pool getting ready to study for an exam that I have on Monday. So I did have some people that wanted me to talk about some different things regarding medical school specifically. One of the questions that I got that was asked to me, how do I space up my study time? So as of late, we had midterms 2 weeks ago, and then this past week, like this week, and then we do have exams every week for the next 5 weeks or so until the end of this quarter. So it's just a never-ending thing, and it's always like, oh, we have a test, oh, next week we have a test, oh, tomorrow we have a test. So it's just all the time, and so it's important to keep up with the material. I find it easier for me to study by myself first. I know a lot of people like to get together in study groups, but when you're completely clueless of the material because you haven't even looked over it yourself, you're pretty much not in a good place. So I prefer to study together but separate. So that means, for example, you have a friend that's studying in the same room or kind of close to you, and you're both there but you're not talking to each other. And to me, it kind of just keeps me motivated to continue to study. I mentioned this in a previous video that it's kind of comparable to going to the gym, and all the machines, like the cardio machines are lined up, or the resistance machines are lined up, and you have people around you that are doing similar things as you, but you're not really interacting directly with each other. So just having that environment set up is really nice. I've been pretty much living in the library for a long time. Everyone's different, so some people like to study with music playing, some people like to study in complete silence. For me, it really depends on the class. So for example, if I'm trying to memorize something, if you're familiar with the method of memorization called chunking, that's where you take if you have a list of like 30 things, you take maybe like 5 items at a time and you just memorize those 5, and then you memorize them in sets of 5. And that's referred to as a form of chunking. And that is something that I like to do specifically with classes that have a lot of lists. And if you need to create mnemonics in your head, for example, creating like in music, like the music clef is every good boy does fine, or having music playing for me in a situation like that is good. I actually prefer it because music, we understand music has a rhythm, has a beat. So sometimes I'll remember words better. I'll be able to memorize the lists better when I'm going according to the beat of the song. And that applies to classes, like I said, which are more for memorization. If it's a class in which I need to memorize a concept or a process and it's something a little more complicated, I actually don't like to have music playing. I prefer to actually have headphones in, noise canceling headphones, and I've actually found on Spotify a white noise track. There's actually a full playlist, and there's even like the different hertz, the different pitch frequencies and stuff like that, depending on what you like to hear. And for me, that actually has been helping a lot. I'm completely in my own world and I can't hear anything. Thankfully, the room that I do study in it's like all glass walls, so I can still see what's going on, but I don't hear anything. And it's really nice. It helps me to concentrate better. And I'm not saying this is the right way, but this is what works for me. As far as study breaks, classes are 1 hour and 50 minutes long. Let's just say 2 hours. But every hour we get a 10-minute break. So I mentioned this before, that students like to take advantage of those breaks, and we go outside. If we have to use the restroom, we use the restroom, but we go outside and we walk around the parking lot. And we try to get as much sunlight as we can. You know, if people need to eat, people eat during class too. That is acceptable and appropriate here at my school. I'm not sure of others, but I know some teachers don't like to have food or wrappers like making noise and stuff, but everyone here is pretty respectful, so we don't, no one's opening up this huge bag of chips and like making all this obnoxious noise. Taking those 10-minute breaks every hour is really helpful for me as a student to kind of recharge. And sometimes, you're sitting in a classroom and your teacher is going so fast and you're trying to take notes and stuff. It gets very draining. Usually the more monotone voices are kind of like sleep inducers, and it's hard to stay awake, but you have to. And it's nice to have people around you that kind of keep an eye and like watch. I haven't seen anyone that has fallen asleep yet because everyone's pretty determined to learn. They're always in that mindset, but taking a 10-minute break every hour I think is very beneficial. I even try to apply that when I'm studying by myself. So if I'm with like one of my friends or something, we'll be like, okay, let's meet in an hour and let's go walk outside, and we'll walk for 10 minutes, do a couple laps, and then we'll come back and get to our studying again. Second question is, okay, someone asked me about dealing with stress and test anxiety. Honestly, again, everyone is different, but I like to maintain a clean diet. I have been eating a lot of vegetables. I have been eating a lot of fruit. I've actually pretty much been vegan for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. Honestly, feel great, and it's really made a huge difference in even my sleep schedule. And like when I wake up in the morning, I feel so much better than just a few months ago. And I think that it's really important to make sure that you're conscious of what you're putting into your system. That is something, I'm not a doctor, I'm not diagnosing or giving any sort of medical advice. You know, health starts in your mouth, and that is something that people don't really realize. They think they can just take a lot of medication and get better, but what you eat is what you become, really. So that is one of the things that I do. I like make sure you stay hydrated, make sure you have a lot of water in your system. Try to avoid added sugars because that can really mess with your brain as well. Also, try to stay active. I've never appreciated the sun so much until I came to Arizona because of how much we're in a classroom for almost 8 hours a day. You know, you're in class for like 30 hours a week plus studying time. So it's like, there's a lot of indoors. And so, like I said, every hour I take a 10-minute break, and it's been very helpful. Making sure that you're eating well, making sure you're drinking enough water, and also to stay active. Those are things that I do to deal with my stress, because that is where it starts. And you know, making time on the weekends to do things you enjoy, whether it's hanging out with your friends or you know, going out to eat or just walking around or doing something that you like to do. Like for me, making these videos is really stress relieving for me. Music is stress relieving for me. So I have a lot of outlets where I can, you know, pursue my hobbies and still be able to be a person and enjoy my life and not just be in a room for 24 hours a day. Test anxiety, personally for me, I like to wake up earlier on days of exams just so I have some extra time to be able to, you know, whether I need to look over my notes or if I just want to pray, just being calm and not trying to be stressed. And of course, being confident with the material helps too. You need to make sure you know what you studied for the exam so that you can feel confident and not feel as stressed. So that's where it also starts, is making sure you know the material. But I like to get up earlier, and I don't like showing up to the day of the exam, showing up in the classroom and everyone's like studying out loud, or like it's like, oh my gosh, like what about this part, or did you look over this section of the chapter or whatever. And that makes me a little more anxious because I feed off of other people's energy sometimes, and in that case it really bothers me, and so it makes me feel a little bit more anxious. So I like to show up, you know, just a few minutes before, you know, get settled. I try to make sure I've eaten something, even if it is before 10 o'clock, because I've been trying not to eat before 10 a.m. I'll try to eat something small just so my brain has a little bit of fuel to function, and that is important for me. Two things, so study breaks and, you know, dealing with stress and test anxiety. If you guys have any other questions for me to answer, feel free to comment below. I will continue to answer your questions if you have any concerns, if you have anything you want me to address in my videos regarding med school. The important thing is to maintain a balance, and that is what doctors are to portray and to demonstrate to their patients, not just in words, but also in their own actions. And so that's where I am still finding more things about myself and making sure that I'm living a way in which people will see that I am credible and respectable and things of that nature. My shirt, my sister-in-law gave this to me. It says, "Think positive, be positive," and that is what we can do. That is our part, my hair is being weird. It is our part to maintain positivity and, you know, to be troubleshooters, not troublemakers. That is a huge quote that my dad always raised us to remember, is don't be a troublemaker, be a troubleshooter. And as a doctor, to be an almost doctor, that is my goal, and that's, I believe, is a great mindset to have. And so I encourage you guys today to continue to pursue your calling. If it's in med school, if it's in business, whatever you're doing with your life, you know, for the glory of God, we persevere, we press on and move forward. So don't let, you know, these tough times get to you and hinder you. You know, we can only continue to move forward. Just keep swimming, and it's going to work out to your favor if you do your part. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Thanks.